Okay, super, thank you. Welcome back to the Licensing Board today. A couple more items to get through. I think I'm not sure if every member is back in the meeting, so can we do a quick roll call, please?
Yes, certainly. If I could just ask you to confirm you're here when I call your name. Stuart Adams.
Here.
Don Black.
Here.
Jeff Crowson.
Yeah.
Jeff Goodall.
Yeah.
Trevor Mason.
Yeah.
Richard Menard.
Here.
Jenny Nichol.
Present.
Mel Sullivan. I'll just move on to Ian Taylor.
Yes, I'm here.
We're just waiting for Mel Sullivan.
Yeah. Okay. I'm concerned that if we start without her, then she can't take any part in the rest of the item.
Yeah. Do you want to hold on for another minute?
Apologies.
Here she is. Here she
My
is.
kettle was taking forever to boil. I'm good now.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Mel. Okay, then, so we'll get restarted. So the next items that we are moving on to is item 10 on the agenda, which is the application of the grant of a personal licence for Stacey Pendry. There's been no declarations of interest. Confirm Stacey is in the meeting, so I know she was earlier on. Ms. Pendry, are you here?
Stacey, if you click *6 on your telephone, it should unmute you.
Hello?
Hello, yes, we can hear you now.
Hi.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that you are here, so that's fine. Thanks very much. And we will also have Sergeant Neil Grant making representation today. Can I confirm that you're here?
I'm here.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so if we could please have the Deputy Clerk confirm the procedure for the hearing, please.
Certainly, thank you. So this is an application for a personal licence for Stacey Pendry. The application is before the board today because the Chief Constable lodged a notice in terms of section 73(3)(b) of the Licensing Scotland Act 2005, advising that the applicant, Ms Pendry, had been convicted of a relevant offence, and in terms of section 73(4) of the Act, the Chief Constable has made a recommendation that for the purposes of the licensing objectives, that the application be refused. In terms of procedure, members will see from Appendix 4 to the report at page 399 to 400. The board will firstly hear from the applicant, then from Sergeant Grant on behalf of Police Scotland. There will then be an opportunity for the applicant to respond to any issues raised by Police Scotland. Board members will then be given the opportunity to ask questions of both parties. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make any closing remarks, followed by Sergeant Grant. Members will then have the opportunity to seek legal advice before making any deliberations. Insofar as options open to members today, when considering this notice, members can determine that they've had insufficient evidence to make a determination and defer to a future board meeting for further evidence. They may refuse the application if satisfied the grounds of refusal apply, or if not so satisfied, they may grant the application. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you very much. And it has been a while since I've read the guidance has been read out. So just for Ms Pendry's benefit, I will read it out. In line with guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, we've asked you to mute your microphone when not speaking. Please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt other speakers. If you do so, you may be removed from the meeting. Once you have been asked to make concluding remarks, you are not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you'll be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, we will go into a breakout room, and then once we come back in, the Deputy Clerk will, the recording will be restarted. So at this point then, can I ask Stacey Pindry to speak to your application and outline to the board why the application has been made and make any comments in relation to any observation made in respect of the application, please? Go ahead.
The personal licence got put in place as I'm the team leader at the Greens of Port Letham. What it was is my mum's, with what's on the record, it's all due to my mum. So it was kind of a setup, but there was no sufficient evidence. So I had to take the punishment for it. I moved away and there's no contact with her because obviously what parent can do that? I've got 2 kids. I don't do anything unresponsible, you know what I mean? I'm just working for my kids.
Okay. Is that the end of your submission?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I now ask Sergeant Neil Grant to speak to the police's representation, please?
Thank you. I'm addressing the board today in relation to this application for the grant of a personal licence by Stacey Pindry. We received the application and we did our fit and proper checks and found that on the 3rd of October 2023 at Edinburgh Sheriff and Jury, the applicant was convicted of Misuse of Drugs Act 1971 Section 4 subsection 3, that's being concerned in the supply of controlled drugs. And she received a community payback order of 150 hours. The circumstances of that conviction are that on the 19th of October 2018, a search warrant was carried out and executed at 129 Marionville Road, Edinburgh. Officers were afforded entry to the premises by the applicant. A quantity of amphetamine, herbal cannabis and cocaine was found within. The applicant was arrested and charged and convicted as above. In light of the above conviction, Chief Constable considers that necessary for the purpose of preventing crime and disorder, securing public safety and preventing public nuisance licensing objectives, that the application be refused. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacey, can I ask if there is anything that you would like to say in response to the police's representation?
No, everything that he's saying is correct. Obviously, my mum was in prison at this point and she was getting early release. And she sent me down to clean her house. And as I got there, the door was going, so I let the police in. I've explained this to the police as well. So my mum and their boyfriend is well known to the police. Me and my mum's got one of them relationships. I've not met, I didn't know her until I was 16. My dad warned her, and now I'm kind of facing the punishment because you have to find out, you know. So now I'm stuck with a charge like this for the rest of my life. That's everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I move on then and ask board members if they have any questions of either of the parties, please? My apologies, I just needed to let my dog out the room if he was making too much noise. Miss Sullivan, Mel.
Hi, Stacey, can I just confirm what you're saying? You're saying that this was not your property, these drugs were not in your possession, and at no point were you a drug user? Thank you.
Yeah, that is correct. So it was my mum's property. It was all to do with my mum. I don't take drugs. I've never taken drugs. I never sell drugs. I've got children that depend on me, and I'm showing them the right for wrong. And basically, like, you fly with the crows, you get shot with the crows. Because of my mum's done this, and she didn't put her hands up to it, I'm now facing the charges.
Okay, thank you. Sergeant Grant, is there any way you can verify this? I mean, it doesn't particularly seem like justice if this is the case, that somebody who doesn't live there and doesn't actually possess the drugs could still get a conviction for drugs.
I don't know those particular circumstances. We've got what was presented to us in the police report. What I will say is that the circumstances have been through a criminal court and the applicant has been convicted on the evidence presented, and that I would imagine that defence would have presented those particular circumstances to the jury at the time, and that would have been taken into account of.
Is there, may I ask, is there any way of getting a transcript or summary of the judgment?
It's not something I've done before, and I imagine it would take a long time to get, and it's quite
Right,
expensive.
so it's
I do
not
believe.
something available online.
Don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something as well?
If you can, you want to come back on that particular point?
Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead.
So my lawyer was trying to push the maximum economic service, and obviously the sheriff could see that I had no involvement and say that I didn't need a higher punishment than what I already got. He gave me 150 hours. It was done. I took the slap on the wrist. I took the charge. My mum and the guy she's with, if you can go into the newspapers, they're well known, basically all over Edinburgh. It's one of them, you either take it or you don't know where you're going to end up.
Okay.
They're high people.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Goodall, Jeff.
Thank you, convener. Along the same lines as Mel, Sergeant, I know this is very difficult because you weren't involved in this investigation, but given your own experience, and this is the bit where probably legal are going to jump on me, given your own experience, if someone were convicted of this crime and they were given the full sentence, would it be more than 150 hours, or is it possible that this 150 hours of community service was simply they understood, the court understood the situation and they gave her the minimum? Is that possible?
If the court thought she was innocent, they would have found her not guilty. They found her guilty, and probably the sheriff will have given her community service in relation to her previous convictions, the circumstances of the case, and any mitigation, I suppose, or admissions as well. So there's a lot of factors in there. Certainly the conviction can be a lot more severe than the community service it was given, but there's variables that I can't really answer your question sufficiently, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Were there previous convictions?
Nothing relevant for this one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maynard, Richard.
Yeah, just a question for the applicant. You stated that your mother was in prison at the time and due for early release. So how long had the property been left empty prior to you going into it? If you could answer that.
To be fair, at this point in time, I was living with my ex-partner. She got caught up for something that she done, so she was only must have been in for a few weeks.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, somewhat. Just a few weeks. It doesn't. Was she on remand or something like that?
Yeah, so she got remanded, and I mean, she must have been only about 3 or 4 weeks she was in for. So she got given like 2 months, but because she good behaviour or something, she got half of what it was. So she was only in about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe the most.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Crowson, Jeff.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. If I could ask Miss Pendry, although you said you was living with your partner at the time, where was your legal address at the time? Was that at your mum's house or?
No, well, basically, I used to live with my mum, and then I moved out July, and my mum said she'd take me off the lease. And when this all came to court, they stated that my name is still on the lease. So my mum had told me a lie and said that she did take me off the lease.
Okay, but officially, according to the court, she was still living at that property, at your mum's property.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And if I could ask Sergeant Grant, I see that there was quite a long time between the thing happening and it coming to court. I'm guessing it's possibly because of COVID and that, another scenario, the delays with COVID. And has there been any other incidents that's maybe not official that gives you concerns that you know about?
I would agree that it's probably COVID causing the delay in the courts, and there's nothing relevant that I should be disclosing to you. Anything more?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mason, Trevor?
Yes, if I could ask Sergeant Grant, I noticed she was, the crime is misuse of drugs. What's the difference between that and possession of drugs?
The name of the legislation is the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971. The charge is being concerned in the supply of concerned drugs. So being concerned in the supply, you don't necessarily have to be in possession. Possession is you have possession of those particular drugs. And then there's dealing, there's producing controlled drugs. But in this instance, it's being concerned in the supply. So it's having some kind of involvement in the supply of controlled drugs, whether it's been found in possession of that, whether it's been assisting people to do that in some form or other, being in possession of paraphernalia that would suggest that you deal drugs or are involved in the sale of illegal drugs. So it's in this circumstance, the officers have done a drug search warrant. They've went and found drugs within the premises, and then their further inquiry has revealed that evidence that the applicant is involved in the concern of the supply of controlled drugs, and it's went to court and she's been convicted.
Was it related to the amount of drugs found, was it, or was it just...
Doesn't necessarily, no, it doesn't. You could be found in a very small amount. You don't even have to be found in possession of drugs. It's not the amount as per se that decides what the charge is.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Miss Pendry, I just wonder if I can ask you, is there a lot of background noise where you are? Could you mute your phone while you're not talking?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, Stuart.
Yeah, thank you, convener. To be found guilty in a criminal court of law, that puts you beyond reasonable doubt. Thus, was it a jury trial or was it a guilty plea? And the final question would be, is there an appeal process enacted? Thank you.
Is that to the applicant or the police officer, please?
I think it would be to the applicant firstly. Thank you.
Okay. Miss Pendry?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I was muting myself.
Okay. Mr. Adams, would you like to repeat your question?
Yes, it's just confirmation if it was a jury trial or did you plead guilty? Because to get a conviction from a criminal court, that's beyond reasonable doubt by your peers. And do you have an appeal in process? Thank you.
What happened was, obviously, it went to a jury court, and then there was a plea after. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Careful. 2 seconds.
Okay.
There was a jury, and then it went into a plea hearing. Basically, my lawyer was my mum's lawyer as well, so I had to get given a new lawyer. and we having kids that are additional need and autistic. This was going on for a fair long time. I don't want to be in Edinburgh any longer. My mum's and her boyfriend were stalking outside the courts and everything. They had people, I've reported it and everything. My mum's been giving me abusive messages. I took the guilty plea and I moved away.
Okay, thank you. You took a guilty plea. Have you launched, since moving away, have you made representation for an appeal?
No, I haven't.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Miss Sullivan, Mel.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a follow-up question for Stacey, please. You've applied for a personal licence. Is that because you have a specific job that you would like to apply for, or are you looking at a promotion?
I've already got the promotion, so I run the night team at the Greens Port Letham. So obviously I'm running a team. I've trained them how to sell the alcohol, challenge 25. It's just basically if anything happens at night time or an LSO comes into the building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any further questions to ask? No, I'm not seeing anything further. So at this point, I would invite concluding remarks. I will go to Sergeant Grant first. Is there anything you'd wish to say in closing, noting that no new evidence can be added at this stage?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And the same to Miss Pendry. Is there anything in closing you would like to say to the board?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you very much. If you could just make sure your microphones are now off. Do board members require any legal advice from the clerk? Ms Sullivan, Mel.
Not so much legal advice, but transparency statement. I didn't realise where the applicant worked. That is my local corner shop. I go in there regularly, but I do not personally know the applicant. So applying the objective test, I will remain and take part.
Thank you very much for that. Mr Crowson, Jeff.
Thank you. I just wanted to check with what I heard from the applicant, that she said that she's already given training out to other staff. That training wouldn't be applicable, would it, if she hasn't got a licence at the moment? Does that mean the staff haven't had official training?
Can we have advice on that, please, from the legal team?
Yeah, it does seem to be the horse before the cart, isn't it? Or the cart before the horse there. It would have concerns certainly about the training that's been given when she herself doesn't have the personal licence.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, do the board wish to, oh sorry, before I ask that, can the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the legal test for the application?
Certainly. So members can elect to refuse the application if satisfied that the ground of refusal applies, or if not satisfied to grant the application. The legal test is found in Appendix 3 at page 383, which I will summarise as follows. At a hearing, the board must have regard to the Chief Constable's notice and any information provided. If satisfied that the ground for refusal applies, then they must refuse the application, but if not so satisfied a ground applies, they must grant the application. The grounds for refusal are, firstly, that having regard to the licence and objectives, the applicant is not a fit and proper person to be the holder of a licence, and secondly, that it's otherwise necessary to refuse the application for the purposes of any of the licence and objectives.
Thank you. So that brings me to the question of, would the board like to retire to deliberate this application? I am not seeing any indications, so I will take that as a no. So I will now open the matter to debate for members, please. Anybody like to go first? Miss Sullivan, Mel.
I was really trying not to go first. This would have been easier for me if the applicant had said, yes, I used drugs 6 years ago and I've been clean ever since and I've turned my life around, etc. That would have been a narrative that we're already familiar with. Saying that it wasn't me, I would go with benefit of the doubt. Somebody's there looking to improve their, well, keep doing the job that they're doing, getting extra qualifications. It has been 6 years. They've moved to a completely different area. To me, it sounds like she is a fit and proper person to hold a license, and I would go with benefit of the doubt, I think.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Goodall, Jeff.
Yeah, it's difficult. I hear what Mel's saying and I agree with most of it, or all of it. But from a legal point of view, the rules are that, you know, the police must object as soon as they find this sort of a thing on their files. But hopefully the young lady concerned has turned her life around. I don't see any evidence of any other wrongdoing, or that since 2018 there have been any other issues. So I too would give it the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you. Mr. Crowson. Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, I agree with most of what Councillor Sullivan said, apart from the presumption that they necessarily have been taking drugs. They could have been in possession, so I would just be mindful of that. But again, had there been an admission that hands up, yes, I've done wrong, then acceptance that they've moved on, that does make a difference to showing some remorse to now being a responsible person. But I'm now actually concerned about the fact that position has been taken and training has been given to others without the proper things being in place themselves, is also sort of not being very responsible to what's required. So I'm still a bit in the middle with it.
Okay.
I'd like to hear what others say.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Maynard, Richard.
Yeah, hi. Question I should have asked actually from the applicant. How old were you at the time of this incident, when you were taken to court at the time?
We are in debate, but I will allow the answer to that question to come forward.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms.
Remember what. I can't even remember what year this was.
2018.
So I'm now 31.
Okay, so you were about 26.
Yeah. So what I meant by when I was training, the personal license training, it's our manager that does it all. But if people are, obviously when people come in, I just remind them if they look too young that they need to ID everybody. That's what I mean. Go over things.
Right.
I'm not personally training people.
Okay.
It's
Thank you for that clarification.
members. Yeah, I'm not proper training people. It's just clarifying they need to remember and ID people.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Mason, Trevor.
Yeah, to decide if she's fit and proper, I think we've got to decide whether she's a victim of circumstance or did she actually do it. I think me personally, I think I've got to give her the benefit of the doubt, really, because we don't really know. I think, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Thank you. Mr. Goodall, Jeff, you want to come back in?
Yeah, thanks, convener. Considering training, I come from a retail background. It's a long time ago, but I know of what she's speaking. And in a retail sense, training can mean anything. It doesn't need to be in the licensing trade or the licensing aspects of retail. And everyone does as she has just mentioned. So the training aspect, and if the manager allows her to train, then they are truly the ones at fault, because it's her overseer who's responsible for what she does and doesn't do in the retail environment.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Adams, Stuart.
I just have to bear in mind that this was a criminal court in front of a jury at some point. The plea originally was not guilty, then reverted to guilty without an appeal then coming after. So it's beyond reasonable doubt that the conviction stands. It's not for us to make moral judgments or make judgments on what might not have been said or what the facts were. These things would have come out in the process of the extended court case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I don't see any further. Oh, Mr. Goodall, you've put your hand up again. Go for it.
Yeah, just what Mr. Adams was saying. I'm not sure that what he has said is correct. And perhaps Sergeant Grant may be able to confirm it. But what I heard was it was going to court, it was going to a jury trial, but she took a plea, which means it didn't go before a jury. I may be wrong.
Mr. Grant, can you clarify?
I'd have to take the word of the applicant. I don't know if it was a guilty plea or a guilty conviction, which is the same, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I'm thinking hard about this, having looked at all of the evidence in front of us over the past week, and also hearing the submissions from both the police and the applicant. And I must admit, I'm in agreement with Mr. Adams in that this has gone in front of a criminal court and a criminal conviction has been made. And it's clear when we're looking at fit and proper people that, you know, that has more weight than perhaps the I don't want to say story, the version of events that has been put in front of us today, to decide whether this person is fit and proper to be a personal license holder doesn't stop Miss Pendry being to work within a premises that is serving or selling alcohol. But whether she is fit and proper to be a personal license holder and therefore could move on to run a bar, do all sorts of different jobs with that license, I'm not sure that we can go with that. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Does anybody else have anything they would wish to debate before we move on? Mr. Maynard, Richard.
Yeah, it's the age thing again. At the age of 26, well, I know I was quite savvy and everything else. So what the young lady is saying there is, you know, I'm in agreement with you and Stuart, to be honest with you, because at the age of 26, you should be quite savvy of what's going on around you and distance yourself from anything like that. So, yeah, that's my main concern. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else before we move on? Mr. Crowson, Jeff.
Well, I'll just add that I appreciate Mr. Goodall's description of the retail trade and the training. I take that on board. But likewise, if she's managing to do the post, because there is someone else who's got the responsibility for the license anyway, and it's not actually going to affect the job that much, then I think that should also be a consideration.
Thank you. Okay, I see no further indication, so I'm going to move us along. So could members please confirm if you have received sufficient evidence to make a decision today, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. At this moment, I will call for a motion, please. Okay, I will go first then. I would call for a motion to refuse the application on the basis that the applicant is not a fit and proper person, as per the police representation being in receipt of a criminal conviction for drug misuse. And so goes against the licensing objectives of crime and disorder, and also protecting public health. And I would seek a seconder. Ms. Sullivan, you've got your hand up next.
Aye, but not to second you, sorry.
That's okay. Can anybody indicate to me visually if there's a seconder for the motion?
Dawn, I'll do it, Stuart.
Okay, Stuart, thank you very much for that. So seconded by Mr. Adams. Mel, if you would like to come in now, I assume you're going to put an amendment forward.
Ah, yes, you guessed right. I'll put an amendment forward that she is a fit and proper person to hold a personal license. Yep. Do I need to say anything else for legal reasons?
Yeah,
Sorry, it's been a long day, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Okay. Thank you.
Can Suzanne or Harriet, can you confirm if Mel needs to put anything else forwards in the amendment, please?
No, I think that's fine in terms of you're saying that, you know, you're happy for the license application or the application to be granted. You're saying that I guess what you're saying is you don't find the grounds as laid out, she can uphold the 5 licensing objectives. There's no concern. Maybe just confirm that now. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
thank you very much.
I do consider a person who will uphold the licensing objectives. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Nichol, Jenny.
Yeah, I can second that. Yeah, I appreciate the evidence we've heard from Police Scotland. However, I've decided to weight the evidence that we've heard from the applicant today. I believe that she's a fit and proper person, and it is one offence, and we have heard the circumstances of that offence today.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I see no further indications. So if I could therefore go to the Deputy Clerk to confirm the motion and the amendment, please, before we go for a vote.
So the motion sits with Dawn Black to refuse the application on the basis that the applicant is not a fit and proper person to hold a personal licence per the police representatives, and in relation to the licensing objectives, specifically preventing crime and disorder, and is it preventing public nuisance, or was it securing public safety?
Public safety.
Public safety, sorry. And then that's been seconded by Stuart Adams. The amendment sits with Mel Sullivan, seconded by Jenny Nichol, and that is that the application be granted on the basis that the applicant is a fit and proper person to hold a licence in terms of the licensing objectives.
Thank you very much. So if we could now take the vote by roll call, please.
Certainly, if I could just ask members to call out for a motion or amendment when I call your name. Stuart Adams.
Motion.
Dawn Black.
Motion.
Jeff Crossan.
Amendment.
Jeff Goodhall.
Amendment.
Trevor Mason.
Amendment.
Richard Menard.
Motion.
Jenny Nichol.
Amendment.
Mel Sullivan.
Amendment.
Ian Taylor.
Amendment.
Would you wish me just to confirm?
If you could confirm, we're missing one, are we?
No,
Or is that everybody? No,
that's
we've got
everybody.
everyone.
That's
Okay,
everybody.
that's fine. Yes,
Sorry,
please.
I
Yeah,
realise it's
so
gone
if
dark
you
here.
can confirm the decision, then please.
Certainly. As I say, it's gone a bit dark here and I'm writing away and I can't read my own. So the votes, we have 3 votes for the motion and 6 for the amendment. The amendment is carried and the application is granted.
Thank you very much. So if you could confirm the decision to the applicant, please, so they have clarity.
Certainly. So for the purpose of the applicant, your application for your personal licence has been granted today on the basis that you are a fit and proper person to hold a licence and that there's no concern in terms of you upholding the licensing objectives.
Okay. So I can confirm that this hearing is now concluded and thank you for attending. And if you can now leave the meeting. Thank you, Miss Pendry. Okay, final piece of business, the Chief Constable's report, and I will invite Sergeant Neil Grant to speak to the report, please.
Yes, it's a statutory report that we have to submit to each board every year. I don't wish to go through the whole report just now, but I am open to any questions that the board may have in regard to it.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask, Neil?
I won't be offended if you don't.
I have one. We've on the occasionals, you've got ones that are refused and ones which are withdrawn. Can you explain those figures a little bit more, just to break down exactly why perhaps things have been refused?
It's ones that have been refused by yourselves.
Okay, so it's not you refusing. Yeah.
No,
okay.
we obviously we don't refuse anything. We just put it to you.
Right. Okay, that clarifies that in my mind then. Thank you. Mr. Taylor, Ian.
Yes, thank you, convener. Just to comment that I thought the report was quite useful, readable, and quite illuminating in terms of numbers and proportions approved and otherwise. And I found it quite helpful in total. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Ian. I think we all feel that about it. It's very helpful and easy to read and relatively short, which is always welcome. Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any further indications. So lastly, just get everyone to note the next board meeting date is the 18th of December 2024. And just thank everybody present for their perseverance and their patience and for their input. And I can now confirm that the meeting has concluded. The recording will be stopped. And I wish you all a very good evening.